This is Bless TV. Catch the vision, share the mission. And today for one-on-one, we have with us one of the most productive, efficient leaders within the entire Inter-American Division, the Jamaica Union Conference President. One who has distinguished himself in the trenches, in administration, in leadership, at the district, pastoral level, the conference directorial level, the conference administrative level, and now at the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Welcome, Pastor Brown.
It's my pleasure to join with you, Pastor, this morning.
I hope you're feeling fine today.
I am well, I'm blessed, and what more could I ask?
Talk to us a little bit for those individuals who do not know the Everett Brown story. Where has Everett Brown's history, where has his life's formation taken place?
Dr. Oliphant, it is my joy to answer that question, and I hope that in answering the question, some young persons out there, members of the church, will be inspired and blessed and will seek to recommit or commit themselves to mission.
Yes.
Well, I was born in Ramble, Manchester.
Yes, sir.
My father grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist home. As a matter of fact, my grandfather was a deacon in the Seventh-day Adventist church in Cumberland. My mother wasn't a Seventh-day Adventist, but subsequent to marriage to my father, she too became a Seventh-day Adventist. So most of my young life I spent in Ramble, being a part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ramble. And it was there in Ramble, the exposure to Christian principles, my father, my mom, the church, and later on at the Maypen High School, that the seeds were sown for what really has taken place in my life over the years.
So you went to, you got Adventist Christian education at the feet of the great Winston Preddy?
Of course.
In Maypen?
Yes.
And
yes.
how did that experience at Maypen High School, how did that help to shape you? What were some of the defining moments, the key learning that took place in your life? Not book learning now, but learning in terms of life values.
Initially, when I went to the Maypen High School, as a matter of fact, teachers, including Mr. Preddy, came to my church one morning and promoted Christian education. And my mother decided that that's the place you were going to go. I resisted because I wanted to go to Knox or other high schools.
Which is closer in Spalding.
Yes, yeah, where my friends were going. But
Right.
she decided that that's the place to be. And it was at the Maypen High School
Yes.
that I met a teacher by the name of Esther Coleman. Esther Coleman, as a teacher, she was not only concerned about us learning academic development, but she was concerned about our social and spiritual development. She would pray with us. She would find out exactly what's happening to us in terms of our physical and in terms of our spiritual growth. And so the weeks of prayers, the Christian environment that existed at the Maypen High School really nurtured me in the faith. It reinforced that which I learned at home. It reinforced the Christian principles that were taught at church. And so Maypen High School, Christian education, plays a significant part in my spiritual and social development, and I believe was the foundation on which my ministry
was formed.
Yes.
The Valley Genesis study, which is the largest study that was ever done in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, perhaps until now, showed that there were 3 critical areas that form the health, spiritual health and direction of Adventists: the home, the school, and of course the church. You've spoken about your home. Initially, your mother wasn't Adventist, came in when she joined with your father. You've spoken about your schooling, particularly at Maypen High School.
Yes.
But at your church, there were some key individuals who helped to
Yes.
nurture you
Yes.
as a young man.
Yes.
Talk to us about the church nurture.
The church for me was everything when I was growing up. It was the place where we had social interaction between young people. It was the place where we got the opportunity to study the word. It was the place where elders like Paul Powell, Zacchaeus Preddy, and Brother Williams, these men literally took us as young people under their wings. So we would do Bible study with them. They would take us out to do visits and to do Bible studies. So they guided us. They helped us. They molded us spiritually and socially.
And that was in what period? That was in the 80s, or what period we're looking on when you're speaking about your spiritual development at Ramble?
Well, I'm speaking about the early 70s.
Your teenage years.
Yes, my teenage years.
And so we are seeing persons investing in you. You are seeing people helping to empower and develop you, not just for the current world, but for the future world. And that, I think, has had an impact on you and your leadership, and we're going to come to that. But I just wanted to point out that this investment is something that you are paying returns on now.
Yes, as a matter of fact, looking back at exactly their approach, they were deliberate, Dr. Oliphant. These elders were not thinking of me going into ministry, pastoral ministry. They were not. But they felt that God called them as local leaders to nurture. And they invested time in me. They invested time in us. And I believe that that level of investment is now paying off.
Yes.
Because there were other young persons who might not have gone into the ministry like I did, but other young persons who were nurtured by these elders who are providing leadership in the church, not only in Jamaica, but worldwide. So I owe a debt of gratitude to these leaders who took time out to nurture, to invest in us, so that the church is benefiting from that kind of investment.
I'm not even certain. How many of them are around right now?
All of them.
All of them. So they're able to see the growth and the trajectory of Everett Brown and the others that you would have spoken about from their local church in Ramble.
Yes.
Speak to us then, as the leader of the Adventist Church in Jamaica now, about the role of the local church, not in 1970, but the role of the local church in 2024 in shaping the future of the church and of individuals, young people going forward.
You will appreciate, Dr. Oliphant, that the church presently, the church of 2024, finds itself in a very dynamic environment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The basic doctrines of the church will not change. But how we do church in 2024, we cannot do church the same way we did church 100 years ago or 50 years ago. Because the thought processes, the thinking of people, we are in a technological age, and an age where people question things. And as a result of that, we have to be creative in how we do church. Note, and I want us to recognize that I'm not saying that its structure must change. Neither am I saying that our doctrines will change. But how we do it. Jesus, when he was here on earth, found himself in a cultural context. And he communicated in a cultural context. We also know must recognize that our young people, the people that we are seeking to share, minister to, finds themselves in a different context when the church started. And as a result of that, we have to develop different methods of communicating the gospel, different methods of nurturing, of teaching, of
Empowering.
Yes. our people.
I hear you, Pastor Brown, on the point of the structure. But could it be that the structure of the Adventist church, the hierarchical nature of the church, the fact that we move from GC to IAD, from IAD to union, and from union to conference, and conference to... Could it be that that also needs to be revisited in the new era, the new environment that if creativity is going to be harnessed, and if we're going to do, we're not changing the doctrines, but if we're going to actually pivot and make the context relevant, make our response to the context relevant, do you think that there's space for consideration of varied new structures for the Adventist church, especially with the local church? Is the local church being choked, in other words, by all of the programs that is coming from wider organization that is limiting the impact of the local congregation to think creatively, to implement programs according to its own local context? Do you see that the structure is an issue?
I don't think the structure as it is now,
yes,
prevents creativity.
Okay.
I believe, however, that what the church should consider how efficiently and effectively it employs and deploys its resources to fulfill its mission. And when I listen to the present treasurer of the General Conference,
yes,
Pastor Elder Paul Douglas,
from the East Jamaica,
yes, and he, of course, and his focus on utilizing the financial resources of the church for mission. He believes that if the resources of the church, financial resources and other resources of the church, is not being efficiently employed in mission, then we should consider it. So I believe that there is space at the local church for creativity. I believe so. I believe what we need to do is to allow, to involve more of our professionals, more of our young people in the planning at the local level. And if we do that, the creativity will come out. But sometimes we do not involve these persons who are knowledgeable, these persons with the skill sets, and it's not easy to change, Dr. Oliphant. And sometimes we allow tradition to box us in. And so if we allow those young persons to be involved in the leadership structure of the local church, if we give them space, then we will see that level of creativity. Because, for example, the union does not legislate what the conference does or what the local church does. The union acts as a counselor, as a facilitator, and the work, mission is done at the local church.
The local church is perhaps the most pivotal era indeed within the structural formation of the Adventist church.
It is.
And because of that, there are a number of persons, President Brown, who are of the view that, and I'm speaking on behalf of leaders who have spoken to me in numerous areas, that at the local church, there is the diary of the local church is sometimes so crowded by the conference plans, the conference programs, that by the time they are supposed to put anything in, it gets shelves. And then the focus on evangelism also creeps in. Speak to a local church leader, a young person on the board, a young professional who is perhaps frustrated with the turnaround time, with the bureaucratic structure, with the board dynamics, and is trying to navigate, find a way to take the creative mind and to implement the church mission program, but it's stalled. It's stalled. Speak to that young person, young professional today, Pastor.
I have seen at the local church,
Yes.
at the local conference,
Yes.
some initiatives being taken which redound to the benefit of the church.
Right.
And so if a local church person, let's say an AY leader.
Yes. I knew you would go to AY.
Yeah, of course, because that is where my passion is. A local AY leader, a local partner leader wishes to do something. There is the channel that would be discussed at the local Adventist youth level, discussed with the local leadership and discussed with the pastor. And I am confident that if that particular initiative, that particular program falls within the broad, not the exact, but the broad focus of the church, that the church will support. So I have never felt that at the local church level, the structure inhibits creativity or the structure prevents an individual from doing.
But
yes, I'm concerned, and to
Yes,
answer your question, I'm
yes.
concerned about how program-oriented we have become as a church.
Mercy, the diary is heavy, Mr.
Yes,
President. The diary is heavy.
I am. But also, I am also aware of the fact that with all of that, there's still enough space for the local church to create and to effect programs that meets the needs of the local church.
I hear some local church leaders in my ears right now as you're speaking, Mr. President.
Yes.
But I'm going to pick up on that with you.
Yes.
We're speaking with Pastor Everett Brown, the president of the Jamaica Union Conference. Jamaica Union Conference covers the 5 fields of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church within the Inter-America Division. In Jamaica, East Jamaica Conference, Central Jamaica Conference, the North and Northeast Conferences, and the West Jamaica Conference. We're speaking with the leader, the man who has the capacity to lead and to turn and to influence the direction of this church. And we'll be right back with you with more after we get a special word from our sponsors right here on Bless TV.
A distinguished leader in the healthcare industry serving you for over 79 years. Our suite of medical services include radiology, laboratory, emergency room, dental care, inpatient and outpatient services, MRI coming soon, pharmacy, as well as a one-of-a-kind vegetarian cafeteria. With an expert team of caring, dedicated healthcare professionals and staff, let us take care of all your healthcare needs. Located at 27 Hope Road, Kingston 10. Andrews Memorial Hospital, dedicated to healing the whole person.
Tobacco kills nearly 6 million people around the world each year. 600,000 of these die from exposure to second-hand smoke. It is among the world's leading preventable causes of death. Smoking will claim an estimated 1 billion lives this century, of which 80% would belong to low and middle-income countries like Jamaica. Let us say no to tobacco use and yes to a smoke-free environment. A message from the Health Department of Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back. What a riveting discussion already with the president. I'm telling you, he's on the firing line today, and we have a lot more to get out of him today. This is Bless TV, one-on-one with the president of the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, the one and only, the man from Camp Verley, Pastor Everett Brown. Pastor Brown, welcome back.
Thank you.
I want to just close off on that point.
Yes.
About the structure and creativity. Because there are many young persons who want to who are vested in this church, but who see mission differently, who see worship differently, who see projects and initiatives differently than the leaders who are leading them. The generational, I won't even touch on you with the generational part right there today.
Yes, sir.
But that creates sometimes a dissonance. And persons are listening to you and will have to now go back to their local church and try to see how they can implement a way, create a path through which they can be able to shape mission for the 21st century.
Yes.
What are some ways you see, seeing that you're saying the structure does not inhibit creativity, what are some ways that you see that this can be done?
The structure of the Seventh-day Adventist Church allows for information to flow both ways. And programs that are implemented at the local level can find its way into the broader church. Mm-hmm. I know of a particular program, for example, Jose, that was started in the Central Jamaica.
Operation Save a Youth.
Yes.
Jose.
An excellent program that focuses on mission, that involves young people. There are programs such as the program in the East Jamaica Conference where the young women are involved in mission. The GEMS program. These are programs that emerge out of...
And in North Jamaica, we have Save a Youth Foundation,
which raises
funds for...
And in West Jamaica Conference, they focus on the community. These are creative programs that the structure allows to develop locally and grow conference-wide, union-wide, and sometimes they find themselves in the division of the worldwide church. So even though the structure does not inhibit or prevents creativity, whenever a young person, if a young person has a brilliant idea, talk to your local leaders. Talk to your local pastor. Put it in a plan and share it with them. And usually, 9 out of 10 times, I'm convinced that if those initiatives lends itself to the spiritual growth of the members, to impacting communities, or advancing the overall mission, those programs will find their way into the mainstream of the local church.
You're speaking like a president here for sure. Mr. President, come. I get you on that point. Let's go back. So we've looked on your history and how your local church has had a direct impact on your life and shaping your education, shaping your ministry, shaping your mission focus. Speak to us now, because most persons don't understand how the internal dynamic works. Mm-hmm. So you were, in fact, a local church leader. You were a youth leader at your local church. Yes. And then you got the call to ministry.
Yes.
Does the call to ministry require you, asking for some of my friends, does the call to ministry require you to go and get an education at NCU?
Well, when I graduated from the Maple High School, I wanted to do business. That was my passion. Mm-hmm. But my involvement in my local church, leadership involvement, my involvement in witnessing, I felt a call on my life to totally commit myself 24/7 to ministry and the mission of the church. And so I went to NCU to do business.
Is what you're saying?
Yes,
to
do business. And in discussing my program, it was suggested that you could do two majors, 2 streams. Mm-hmm. And instead of my registering for a major in business, I ended up majoring in theology and doing a minor in business. The Holy Spirit led me to do that.
We're going to come to that later. And I want
So,
you to
so,
speak.
so, just not, so, I did not receive the call to ministry in high school, whereas some of my friends from high school wanted to go into ministry. That was not me. But I suspect that my involvement in church, the nurturing, the spiritual investment, all of that was preparing me, and God was preparing me for a life of service. And here I am.
So you had an entrepreneurial mind.
Yes.
You went to NCU to study business.
Yes.
Ended up doing major in theology with a minor in business.
Yes.
Can I just put a little pause right there?
Yes.
In the conversation?
Yes, sir.
What then is your thinking? Because in the church, pastors who go to Northern Caribbean University, or gentlemen and women who go to Northern Caribbean University to study, they are normally going on the pastoral administration streak.
Yes.
In many ways, that is beneficial to individuals who may not have been brought up in the church, do not understand certain fundamentals, etc. However, the church has become more dynamic.
Agree.
The church is now, we have education ministries, we have children's ministries, we have treasurers, etc. Are you in support of ministers of the gospel equipping themselves in areas other than pastoral ministry?
I believe that ministers who are called to ministry should focus on ministry and
Yes.
should prepare himself
Yes.
or herself
Yes.
to do this one thing. But I
Okay.
also believe that as a pastor,
Yes.
any information or skill that you can acquire that will add value to the promulgation of the gospel, that it is
Beneficial.
beneficial. It is beneficial to you as a person. It's beneficial to the wider church. For example, speaking of me, I now find myself having to chair boards, having to look at financial statements, having to deal with strategic plans and all of that.
And that's because of your master's in business administration.
Right. Comes very handy.
Yeah.
So, an individual who believes that God has called him or her into ministry, an individual who believes that he has certain skill sets and that could get training in those skill sets and allow and use those skill sets in ministry to benefit the wider church and to enhance the promulgation of the ministry. So no, I don't have a problem if a pastor feels that I want to do engineering, I want to do medicine, I want to do law. However, your lawyership or your engineering skills or your counseling skills should not detract from your call as a minister to prepare men and women for eternity.
That is sometimes to some individuals a strange theory, a strange concept, because there are some individuals who feel that the pastor must just study the Bible and Ellen White books and that is it. But in the global village within which the Adventist church now operates and how dynamic the church is and the level of education at the local church level, boards and membership alike, it's beneficial to actually have added skills which help you to make better decisions and to lead the church. Perhaps.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to NCU, you did this, you graduated which year?
I graduated in 83.
The class of 83, and you started working in the mighty, powerful, the essential Central Jamaica Conference.
Hold on. When I graduated, I was not employed. When I graduated, there was no space for me in the conference. I applied, but interviewed, no space. And so I had to turn to teaching. And so I taught at the Christiana Secondary School principles of business and accounts and prepare students who did excellent in their external exams. It was during my time at the Christiana High School as a teacher that an elder, Ashford Williams, called me and says, Everett, come and do a week of prayer for me. And while going to school, while working at Christiana, I did this week of prayer that turned out into a 3-week evangelistic crusade, and 16 persons were baptized. And as a result of that, he spoke to the conference president and said, hey, I have a person here. This young man has potential. Right? And so in 85, I was taken on as...
So you graduated in 83,
yes.
and for 2 years you
Yes.
were without your space.
But was involved
But you
in
were
mission.
involved.
Yes. And I was taken on and sent to the Brownstone district as
Your
pastor.
first, and that Brownstone district then was from below Spaldings
Yes.
to right on the edge of Discovery Bay.
Yes. Yes.
And that was how
11
many
churches.
districts?
11 churches.
11 churches.
11 churches without a car. 11 churches, members.
Dr. Gallimore
Of course,
helped you out quite a bit with the car.
Yes, and Princess. They helped me,
Princess Laws.
and others also.
Yes.
But it was one of the most exciting period of my life, having got my first pastoral district. I love the people. They love me. Today we have bonds of friendship that were formed in my first pastoral district. To know.
So you pastored for how many years?
I was asked, I was transferred to the Portmore district. And from the Portmore district, I was transferred to become associate pastor of the NCU church. And then I think in 1988 or 1989, I was called to serve as youth director of the Central Jamaica Conference. That's my best job so far in the church.
That is where most people know you from. I think a lot of us, myself included,
Yes.
have benefited from those years of your youth ministries when you had the brown Toyota Corolla. The
brown Camry, the white Corolla.
And the white Corolla, right, that is it.
Isabella.
Yes. And those were years when you still look as young as you did then.
Oh, thank you.
I soon ask you how you keep the form.
Thank you.
You still look young and fresh. Because that's how, even how you are now is how I remember you as a child, and I'm no longer a child.
Certainly not.
So we see you moving on the right trajectory with that. Your years as youth ministries director, though, from you entered the office then in 88, 89, you have not looked back, because you have been on an upward climb within the church in terms of leadership. You moved from being youth ministries director to then executive secretary, and then moved from executive secretary to becoming president. So tell us a little about the lessons that you would have learned, that you would have honed as a youth practitioner, as a leader, as many of us have remembered you as youth director, that you think is beneficial for the generation coming behind.
To value people. People is the most important asset that we have. Not to condemn, not to be too judgmental, and to recognize that we are all growing. We are all growing, and we make mistakes. An incident took place at camp one year that has taught me a very important lesson. We had a visiting camp director, pastor from England. And one night, while he was under his tent, the guys pulled a prank, placed water on his tent, cut the ropes, and the water fell on him.
That sounds like camp.
Yes, yes. I decided that I was so embarrassed, and I decided to discipline the guys. I found out who the guys were, and I decided to discipline them. And so at camp council, before the devotion was done, I was so embarrassed that I decided to call all 4 of the young men up, packed their bags, and told them before the devotion was completed to head for the gate. After that was done, Ken Wright, Ken Wright, an extraordinary leader, came to me and he said something to me, Dr. Oliphant.
Yes.
He says, Pastor Brown, you could at least waited until the devotion was completed and they get the blessing before you send them home. And there and then I recognize how important it is for a leader to be understanding, to be patient, to recognize that it is not about you, but it's about the people that you serve.
Developing them.
Yes, and so my relationship with young people, my work with young people has taught me the lessons of humility, the lessons of patience, the lessons of being understanding, less judgmental. And I carry all of those into my marriage, into my relationship with my children, into my relationship with people, into my relationship with my colleagues. Not perfect, but these very important lessons have helped me in my leadership so far.
I'm going to touch, and that is very, very powerful. That's a powerful lesson. The great Ken Wright has stood out as one of the most exemplary leaders we have across the entire Jamaica Union. When it comes down to youth ministries, commitment, quality, dedication has always been there, and I see he's still quite much involved, yes. Active. Yes. Can't get it out of him.
No.
So you would have gone through the various levels. From local church, you've been through the conference, you've served your church, and now to the union. The union is considered the highest ranking administrative area within the Jamaica setting amongst all the fields and conferences. You have the ability to shape the direction for the president of the union is also the chair of the board for Andrews Memorial Hospital, as well as the chair of the board for the Northern Caribbean University, health and education. So in addition to the work of the churches, which is focused on mission, which includes those two other arms, but you also oversee 700 plus churches.
Yes, I do.
You oversee 5 conferences and a number of institutions within those entities. And so the workload on you is heavy.
Yes.
You came to the leadership in Jamaica Union, as I recall, when Jamaica Union was at a very tender place in the sense of transition phase, in the sense of what happened with the fallout with IML.
Yes.
Tell us about how you handled that. What were the guiding principles that would have helped to shape you bringing the church through this difficult part, because you're speaking about millions of dollars with a number of persons who would have invested and would have lost. What were the guiding principles? What were the things that were at the forefront of your mind as a leader, as a pastor of the church?
Trust in God. Reliance on God. A leader must always be in touch with God, an intimate relationship with God. So you talk to God about the issues, you pray to Him, you place it before Him, and you get a sense of direction from Him. So during that period of time, union president was not on my mind. Youth director was never on my mind. Conference secretary was never on my mind. I just wanted to thrust myself in the ministry, to pray with people, to encourage people, to study the Word of God with people, and to see people committing themselves to Jesus Christ. That's my passion then, and this is my passion now. But I recognize God's call on my life to provide leadership. I see where He has prepared me academically, where He has prepared me emotionally. And so in 2010, during the transition from the West Indies Union to the Jamaica Union, and the fallout the IML, I had to rely on God. I also relied closely on my wife. My wife has been a rock. Lana has been a rock to me. She's made so many adjustments in her professional life in order for me to serve the church. And I love her for this. I appreciate her for this. So I got support from my wife. A lot of support from my wife. I got support also from my colleagues in ministry, my colleagues in leadership, support from the leadership of the higher organization. But I was able to collaborate. I was able to speak with members of the church who had the skill set to deal with these issues. And so Dr. Trevor Little was the person whom I turned to. And I said, Elder Little, you have experience in dealing with challenges like these. How would you deal with an issue like this? And I sat in his office, and he gave me some ideas as to how I should approach this. And it is those ideas from laypersons, my connection with God, the support from higher organization, and the support from my fellow administrators, my family, and the wider membership of the church. I remember talking with a leader of the church, and he says, we thought we thought that the Jamaica Union would go under. But you did not, Pastor Brown, because of the commitment and dedication of the members of the church. The members of the church are super. Yesterday I sat in a church. I sat in a church that I was visiting for the very first time. The Vaughansfield Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they were celebrating
100 years.
Their centennial. And when you look at the members who are serving in East, the members who are serving abroad, the members who are serving in Central, the members who are serving all over the Jamaica Union and the world, they came from the Vaughansfield Seventh-day Adventist Church. They came back. The members of the church are committed to mission. Yes, I have a concern that more of our members should be involved in evangelism, should be involved in the church. That's one of my passions. I would love to see more involved. But they are committed to their church. And this church will never go under because God is in control. And God uses members of the church, faithful members of the church, to guide and support.
So you relied on God, you relied on your wife, you relied on your colleagues, and you solicited
resource persons.
You solicited in.
Let me say this. That any pastor who fails to recognize the leadership skills of the local members of the church will fail.
That's right.
It is their church.
That's right.
We do not know. They have vast experience as to how churches run, how we operate. And so all we need to do is to bring them on board and to allow them to participate in the process of growing their church.
The IML was one of the major crises that has been a part of your leadership.
Yes.
What I would say would be the second is COVID.
Yes.
You will go down as the president who helped the Jamaica Union or brought the Jamaica Union through this COVID period.
Yes.
Looking back, what are some important lessons you have drawn as a leader from the COVID experience that is necessary for any other leader coming behind you into the future?
Know what your church believes. During the COVID, know what your church believes, understand your church, the culture of your church, and what your church teaches, what your church, the belief system of your church. I knew when COVID started that there were this level of cynicism, this conspiracy theory going all around. I knew that. And so I went back to what my church's position on vaccination. And so I use that as a frame of reference in guiding my church to say my church does not believes in health principles. My church believes in vaccination, but my church does not tell anyone what to do as far as your health is concerned. So individuals were free to choose whether or not they got vaccinated or not. If you felt so, go ahead. The church does not prevent you. And if you do not feel that you should, fine. It's your decision. So I find that when you rely on what your church, when you use the belief systems and teachings of your church, I also believe also that you have to recognize that there are persons who are growing. And there are some persons during COVID who did not reach where I reach in terms of their faith development. I was petrified. I was disappointed when members of my church could use social media to say that in taking a drug, you were taking the mark of the beast into your body. No Seventh-day Adventists who understand our teachings on the mark of the beast should be saying that. And so I was disappointed. I was not disappointed that persons chose not to, because it's their right. But I was disappointed that they could allow conspiracy to so affect them to the extent that they are equating the taking of an unsafe or safe drug, vaccine, and comparing that to someone taking the mark of the beast into their body. It's unlike us, and I was concerned. So I believe that there is still need for us to educate our church.
It brings us to a point that I want to pick up on the other side of this break.
Yes.
The issue of doctrinal purity, doctrinal teaching, and doctrinal education.
Yes.
But we'll pick up with that. We're speaking with the president of the Jamaica Union Conference, the one and only Pastor Everett Brown. We are going to pick up right after this break. Take a word from our sponsors. You're watching Bless TV. Share the vision. Catch the mission.
Tobacco kills nearly 6 million people around the world each year. 600,000 of these die from exposure to second-hand smoke. It is among the world's leading preventable causes of death. Smoking will claim an estimated 1 billion lives this century, of which 80% would belong to low and middle-income countries like Jamaica. Let us say no to tobacco use and yes to a smoke-free environment. A message from the Health Department of Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists.
A distinguished leader in the healthcare industry serving you for over 79 years. Our suite of medical services include radiology, laboratory, emergency room, dental care, inpatient and outpatient services, MRI coming soon, pharmacy, as well as a one-of-a-kind vegetarian cafeteria. With an expert team of caring, dedicated healthcare professionals and staff, let us take care of all your healthcare needs. Located at 27 Hope Road, Kingston 10. Andrews Memorial Hospital, dedicated to healing the whole person.
Welcome back. What a discussion so far with the president. I wish I had more time, but I don't have much more time. Mr. President, speak with me. We're just on that point that we left off on. This point of doctrine.
Yes.
has been one that has dogged the COVID era and post-COVID era. Not that it didn't exist before, but it certainly has been magnified. And I hear you speaking about knowing what your church believes and knowing what your church teaches, which is important, fundamental. Right. But there are a lot of false doctrines that are gaining prominence by virtue of the widespread nature of social media and individuals' access to these alternative sources than the pulpit. How do you see the issue of doctrine, in particular, the doctrine on the Godhead, the doctrine of the Trinity of God? How do you see that affecting us as Seventh-day Adventists? What should be our response?
Thank you for asking that this very important question. It's a troubling question, but not a question that is very difficult for me to answer. The positions, doctrines, and teachings of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is based on Scripture. And whilst Trinity, the word Trinity, may not be found in Scripture, there is enough evidence from the Old and New Testament that there is a triune God. And so our church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and this is why I said as a pastor, as a leader in the church, one of the reasons why we are ordained as ministers of the worldwide church is that we believe in the doctrines, the teachings of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we are prepared to do that. So as leader of the church, as a pastor, I have enough evidence from Scripture to support the church's position on the triune God, Trinity, as taught in the Bible. And so I would encourage local leaders, if there are persons who are concerned about the Trinity or concerned about any other doctrines, any other positions of the church, that you create space and time in your local church to educate. Dr. Oliphant, I was talking to a leader of the church not too long ago, and he says, Pastor Brown, as we were relating to them about some of these challenges, he says, you will always have persons with different views. But as a church, we have settled at this point in time on these fundamental beliefs, on these doctrines. There is a process. There's a process. If you are concerned, you discuss this with your local pastor, discuss it with your local leader, have the discussion at the local conference, the union, and if necessary at a higher level, if you are concerned. And at that level, if you are still concerned, then maybe we could take that to the General Conference.
Do you think it's time that the Jamaica Union Conference should convene, though, a biblical seminar on this?
Yes.
Do you think so?
Yes, as a matter of fact, before you even ask the question, yes. And we had plans, and Pastor Johnson will tell you, we had plans this year to have organized a Bible conference. And the focus of that Bible conference was going to be on the Trinity. I don't remember the other. But yes, we do, and we hope
that should be on the agenda.
Yes,
that should be on the agenda.
We hope that in early 2025 we'll be able to convene such a Bible conference.
I am happy to hear that, and I'm willing to be a part of that. Doctor, talk to me, Mr. President. I want to know, so we've looked on the doctrine. Let us talk a little now about the worker force.
Yes.
Because you speak about the people being the most important aspect.
Yes.
I interpret that to have been the people who are the members.
Yes.
Now I want to shift to the people who are part of the worker force.
Yes.
The worker force of Jamaica Union Conference is over 1,000 individuals.
Yes.
Combined when you take into consideration Northern Caribbean University, the 5 fields and the various levels of
Indeed.
individuals within it. There is, however, the core group, which is the pastoral group, a series of migratory patterns that are emerging with greater frequency and higher levels. What are you as the leader concerned about pastoral migration?
Yes, I am.
And how is it that we are going to give a response to that? Is it that we are not responding to the needs of our pastors? Is it that we are more focused on, how do I put this? The pastors being servants to the people and nobody serving the pastor or caring for the pastor? Is there a dissonance between the leadership and the worker force that needs to be bridged?
Right. To answer that question, we have to look at what is happening in the worldwide church. We need to recognize that a pastor is ordained to the worldwide church. The world is the pastor's field. And so a pastor can accept a call anywhere in the world as the Lord leads him or her to fulfill that calling. But yes, I'm concerned. North America is concerned because North America is not graduating the amount of pastors. I read an article a few months ago which suggests that thousands of pastors are going to be retiring in North America.
About 3,000 or
right.
more.
So, because of the needs in North America, you will find that some of our most senior and senior pastors, let me use the word senior, some of our most senior pastors would be tempted or would be offered pastoral position to fill in those areas. And they are going to take up.
Yeah, but Mr. President, let's be frank on this.
Let me finish. They're going to take that up. Pastoral migration is not different from medical personnel migrating from Jamaica. As a matter of fact, I read a few weeks ago where Jamaica is thinking of employing teachers from overseas to fill local situations. So the migration of professionals to first world countries is not only unique to the pastors. No, having said that, having recognized that, pastors are migrating not only from the Jamaica Union. Pastors are migrating from other unions also.
They love the Jamaicans though.
Yes.
There
right.
are number of areas where the Jamaican pickup is much greater and higher than the other countries.
Right. I just want to try to be very broad in answering that. No, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there might not be pastors who are frustrated. Yes. And they leave for what they would term more better opportunities. They may be that. But I came into ministry. I told you that for 2 years I could not get a position. Pastor Gladstone Knight accepted a call to Canada.
Yes. And that's how you got into Brownstone.
And that's how I got into Brownstone. So what we must do in Jamaica is to be proactive and recruit more young men and women for ministry.
The challenge is though, Mr. President, the challenge is this. Number one, on the first burner, Northern Caribbean University is graduating a minimum of 9 individuals per year.
Yes.
I checked the graduation list for this year, it's 9.
Yes.
The fields are still maintaining large pastoral districts. So in 2024, you still have pastors pastoring districts with 4, 5, 6, which has been, have been for years. When you started out in 1983, you spoke about the fact that it was 11. There are still close to that number here. The largest I've pastored is 9, and I've started way after you. So how do we develop a plan? Because when you started out and Dr. Gladstone Knight went to New York, you were a single man.
Yes.
But pastors today, some of them coming into ministry with family and with children.
Yes.
And the reality of the dollar, the inflation, the extent, when a pastor has 5-6 board meetings and this one salary has to cover the transportation to wedding and funeral and all the week in the week visitations, etc., and normal life expenses, it creates a stress on the pastoral family.
Yes.
Is it that we are not considering or forecasting, looking into the future, to how all of this affects the pastors who are in your workforce?
And I have a note. I believe in my church. And the sharing with you as a leader.
Yes, and the church not going to go under. We know that.
Yes, but I think we have to be creative. I see a number, as a matter of fact, there were about 2 or 3 of those elders, young elders in my church, whom I saw in them the call to ministry.
And you send them to NCU?
Encourage them to go to NCU.
Yes.
There are a number of young men and mature men who, if they were given the opportunity to prepare themselves for ministry, and at the same time continue with their regular professional jobs, that they could be an asset in the church, either as lay pastors or pastors who serve the church but fulfill their, and in terms of financial burden on the church, they would be doing their, and note I'm so
let me ask
have
we reached that stage?
This, I believe we have.
Have we reached that stage?
I believe we have. I believe that we are going to that stage where more lay pastors will have to be employed to provide. And they are as elders now providing that level of care. If we could train them and prepare them, then they would be able to fill that gap, that void, that is now created. Note, this is not something that I have voted on. This is something that I have discussed with my leaders, that based on the trajectory, I think.
Are we going to get to the point where pastors are going to have less pastoral districts, Mr. President?
We have to.
I've been hearing that from I was a boy at Newport Church in Manchester under Central Jamaica Conference.
Yes, the question is, these are fixed costs. And I have to put on my bill. These are fixed costs. The minute you employ, the minute you split a district, there's a fixed cost.
Yes.
An additional, and you have to look at your income and to align your income with your expenses.
Then if people are at the center, Mr. President, shouldn't we then develop that plan to ensure that the pastoral rigors of ministry in Jamaica are minimized so that the outcomes can be maximized? Yes,
the goal is to reduce pastoral districts for pastors so that they can concentrate on their pastoral care more. But you have to find the funds to do so. You have to find the human resource to do so. If you don't have the pastors, you can't split the district. And if you do not have the income, you cannot employ another pastor. So you have to look at both. So we're in a dilemma,
and we've been in this dilemma for a number of years.
No. When I was an intern, when I started, those 10 and 12 pastoral districts are no more. Churches in a pastoral district are no more.
Well, Brownstown has been split, of Alexandria, and
yes. So we are reducing them. And as the income of the church increases, as we prepare more pastors for ministry, you'll find that...
Let me quickly move on to a connected issue with that, Mr. President. The issue of the calling to the ministry. I'm asking myself these questions of late. Is it that the Lord has stopped calling?
No.
Or is it that people have stopped answering? Because there was a time when the graduating class at Northern Caribbean University, School of Religion and Theology, was much larger than it actually is now. And we're seeing perhaps smaller numbers, sometimes even in the single digits, like perhaps this year. What are we doing to fix this enrollment issue and this concern, not just for the School of Religion and Theology, but also at Northern Caribbean University?
Yes. One, we are granting more scholarships to persons who would like to study theology. We are offering more scholarships to those persons. We are also encouraging professionals who are leaders in the church and who would like to write. We are doing online program at NCU where you could stay at home and prepare yourself for ministry. So we are doing a number of things to increase the enrollment and increase those persons who are prepared for ministry in these challenging times.
The Northern Caribbean University is our flagship educational institution. We now share co-chair, you're the chair, and we have the co-chair from ACOM.
Yes.
How do we see, what's the vision you have for Northern Caribbean University post the pandemic in 2024 going forward?
The vision for NCU is the same, preparing men and women for service here on earth and preparing them for the kingdom of God. However, we want to see NCU as the institution of choice for our Seventh-day Adventist young people, to focus on our strengths, to utilize technology to create a system whereby most of our courses are going to be online. That's the vision, to move towards that modality where persons are being prepared online. A number of the programs will be online. That's the direction we are going. And we hope that by doing this, we'll be more efficient. More persons would be able to access training at NCU. But that's in a nutshell. We see NCU as continuing its focus on preparing workers, continuing and utilizing technology to make it more cheaper and accessible to a broader group of our members and the Jamaican people.
The other institution that you chair, because we're against time, is the Andrews Memorial Hospital, which has been by far one of the most favored hospitals in the island. We note that there's a new president for the Andrews Memorial Hospital, a younger president than before. What's your vision for Andrews Memorial?
A new, excited, and visionary leadership team supported by a committed and dedicated board. They have a new strategic plan which seeks to increase the offering at Andrews. A new stream of services are about to take place there. So we see Andrews continuing on the path of providing health care to not only to the members of the church, but to every sector of the society. And I'm hopeful, I'm excited about what is taking place at Andrews.
Well, my producers asked me to answer this question, and I'm leaving it for the last one. It's the big one, Mr. President. You have been in administration in Jamaica Union since 2010. It's now 2024. That's 12 years.
Yes.
What's your plan going forward?
Yes. My plan going forward is to continue to serve.
Yes.
To serve God. I'm at the age for retirement, and if I'm healthy, I'm looking forward to retirement shortly. And that is going to be based on how healthy I am, I do not have to serve the church as president of the union. There are other areas, there's need for pastors, and I have no problem if I am not serving as president of the union, even if I'm retired and I'm asked to provide leadership to a local church. I'm not averse to doing that because I see myself as a pastor.
As a pastor.
Yes.
Mr. President.
But to underscore, I am at a stage where I can retire, and I'm looking forward to retirement early.
The State of Jamaica Union Conference now, Mr. President, as you look towards, I believe election is next year. We have General Conference in July.
Yes.
And I believe based on the constitutional changes that were voted for our union, December it will be for next year. How do you see the State of Jamaica Union? I mean, broadly speaking, there are 5 fields and 5 conferences, really. How do you see the state of your church now?
Yes, the institutions are poised for growth. The conferences are doing well. As a matter of fact, some of the conferences are doing excellently. And so I'm comfortable with where the church is. The church is focused on mission. Christian education is important to me and important to the leaders of the church. We see health as the opening word. So Andrews, NCU, and our high schools will continue to prepare minds for service. So I am comfortable where the church is. I would love to see more of our young people accessing Christian education. I would, going forward, we have in place a plan to increase the amount of scholarships that we grant to needy students. We have in place a plan for an educational fund to fund these scholarships. So the church is in the hands of God, and God continues to use us as instruments of His grace to prepare a people for His second coming. And I can't wait for Jesus to come to take us out of this sin-cursed earth. I want to encourage the leaders and members of my church to let us be faithful, for very soon Jesus Christ will come.
Mr. President, thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
It's been my pleasure.
God bless you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
There you have it, the President of the Jamaica Union Conference, overseeing 5 conferences, giving leadership to the Northern Caribbean University Board, the Andrews Memorial Hospital Board of Directors, and also across the fields through the presidents and the various administrators. We are grateful to have had you joining with us here on Bless TV for this edition of One-on-One. We hope that you have been inspired listening to the story of the young man from Ramble who has served through youth ministries and has served diligently his church in numerous administrative capacities, so that today he serves at the seat of leadership over all Jamaica at Jamaica Union Conference. Until next time, I am Omar Zeddy Oliphant. Walk good.